Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our program, Lost But Found. This is your humble host, Phumza Graced. Right, it has been awesome. It's gonna be fantastic. I promise you. There are new developments. I am really humbled and honored by your comments, the people that have been encouraging me, the people that have been touched in one way or the other due to this program. I'm really excited because now there are people who are passing through similar things, and it is giving me, it has been giving me more passion for what I am doing. So I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart. I just want to thank you all. I promise you we're gonna have a wonderful time. I believe this is our third episode this week. There are new developments and it looks like it's gonna be a massive discoveries that are going to take place. I just want you, before I start, I just want you to kindly like my page, Phumza Graced. Also, what I would like you and urge you to do is to share this video to your friends, your colleagues, whoever that you feel that they need to hear this message. Let somebody out there be touched. Let somebody out there be delivered. Let somebody out there be blessed. Also, I want you to go to my YouTube page and subscribe. Please give me your thumbs up there so that I can see that you are really benefiting from what I am doing. So as we are about to start today, as I have welcomed you last week on our second episode, when I revealed some things there, I made a last statement, and in my last statement I said that in my discovery, as I was lost in my way of life, in my journey of life, I remember that I said that there is one thing that I have taught my children, is that they should never begin or even think of worshiping me when I am gone. What do I mean about worshiping me? I'm talking about treating me as an ancestor or an idol. I do not want anything concerning that. So I said that I'm gonna come back and talk about beliefs. That is one of the reasons why I left that statement, so that we can go home and ponder and think about such. So now today I'm going to tell you about my lost but found pattern of belief. So I just want us to talk about belief. All right, as I have grown from different backgrounds, with different religions, with different beliefs and culture, as we all know that a culture is a pattern and the way of life, a lifestyle that any individual is brought up from. As I have mentioned even last week, that even if you were to be born in China, there will be no difference if you were born in that particular country. Then the lifestyle, the culture, you will adapt to it and you will act like those people. Same applies if you are from Eastern Cape and then you had to be born to a different area from Gauteng or Limpopo, or whatever the case may be, or America, it does not matter. Where you have been placed by God, there is a particular pattern or culture that you will get accustomed to and you will adapt to it, and then you will discover yourself to act like those kind of people. So I had those different patterns because I was moved from home to home. I'm coming from different beliefs, different religions. So there were different cultures that I have adopted and I got accustomed to. And there are certain beliefs that particularly come from my own background, which are foundational. So in that particular pattern of belief or culture, there are things that I have been taught before I got born again. So now when I was growing up, I was also told, now without moving from one home to another, in my immediate family, my grandmother was a woman of God, a woman that loves God. But on the other hand, she was married to my grandfather, the one that I mentioned in my previous episode. So this woman was married at a very young age. And as she was married at a very young age, she discovered or founded herself to be married to a traditionalist, a sangoma, a strong cultural believer. But as she got married, in that process, as she got married, she never let go of her own beliefs. She still maintained her religious beliefs. So as I grew up in that foundation, I discovered that my grandmother is going to a different church. I will start mentioning churches now. My grandmother was from Dutch Reformed Church. And then my grandfather, as he is a herbalist, traditionalist, sangoma, he was from the Methodist Church. But then as I grow up in this environment, I discover that the person that goes more to church every Sunday, I know that my grandmother will put on her black and white uniform and she would be going to church. I discover that on particular prayer worship days during the week, those services, she never missed them. I discovered that this old woman, she never missed paying her tickets, her tithes, everything that is related, that is concerning her beliefs. So I noticed all these things. But then my grandfather, if I can remember, I believe that I only saw him going to that church once, which is Methodist. And then now in the children that they had, both of them as a couple, my mother chose to follow my father's side. She was Methodist. I believe it's about 2 of them in their children that became Methodist, and the rest of them, they became Dutch Reformed members. So as I grow up, there are certain things that were introduced to my understanding as a child because they've been existing before. Now I noticed that, all right, there will be times where there will be rituals that will be taking place in my grandparents' home. So all the families, they will gather together. There will be slaughtering of cows. There will be one thing or the other that will be done. When I was growing up, I'm a very inquisitive person. I'm a person who is full of questions. I don't allow things to just take place without me understanding. I have been like that since I was young. So I would always go to my grandmother and said, and then now, what is the meaning of this? So there are certain things that I will ask. And my grandmother used to tell me that your inquisitivity will take you somewhere in life. But then, since you are asking, there are those that are older than you that do not come to me and ask questions. But since you have asked, I will give you answers. So she explains certain things. There are things that I did not understand. First thing that I did not understand in this belief. All right, my mother, she was a very intelligent woman. But then I discovered that this woman, she did not finish her high school. So I asked my grandmother, why is it that my mother did not finish her high school? Because I grew up in a wealthy environment. My grandfather, he had money. He was well off. So we never lacked nothing. Those that know, they will attest to it. So I'm like, this family, you are not a struggling family. Everything is there. So why is it that my mother is not educated. Why didn't she go to school? And then my grandmother started to tell me things. And then she started to tell me that, because I had children one after the other, like age gap was too fast. So there was a period whereby I had to take your mother to your grandfather's side, which is the mother of my grandfather, my grandmother. So when she got there, she started to get sick to such an extent. I asked, what kind of sickness are you talking about? And then she said, hey, these things are too deep for you. But then, since you are asking, I will give you little bit. When you grow to a certain stage, you can still come back and ask me questions. She started to explain to me the background of everything that is taking place within the families from my mother's side and my grandfather's side, both of their side. And then I discovered that there are certain spirits as well in this marriage, apart from traditionalists, apart from herbalists, apart from sangomas, apart from all that side. Then I discovered that there's still another operational spiritual environment that was taking place within these families. I discovered now what is called witchcraft. So I wanted to understand what is witchcraft. My grandmother explained to me the things that took place. Starting now, so she had to explain everything, because now I did not ask only about my biological mother. She had a firstborn daughter who was married at a very young age. And then I have a burnt mark on my arm. So meanwhile, I was asking these things. I also questioned her that, why is it that I have a burnt mark in my arm? So if maybe in case you think that I'm lying, I have a burnt mark that is here. I was like, it's right here. I'm not sure if you can see that. So I asked, what is this burnt mark about? And then she explained to me, you know what? I got married to this family. When I got married, there are certain things that I encountered in this development of this family. I had a first daughter, and she got married at a very young age to a wealthy guy. And then all of a sudden, one day when I was holding you in my arms as a baby, I believe I was like 10 days or 12 days, I had tea in my hands. And then the news came into my ears. Meanwhile, I was having tea. And then they told me that my daughter passed on. This is the first child that they had in the marriage. So, as these are the traditionalists, my father's side, according to the custom and the culture, there are certain things that you have to go to do, so that you find out what went wrong, how did it happen, and all of that. So there were some consultations from the spirits that needed to be done, and then witchcraft started to come out, that this and this and that, because of witchcraft, because of this is how your daughter lost her life. It did not make sense still. And then I discovered now that the witchcraft now that I'm introduced to now, that I have to live with, because you cannot choose which family you want to be born to. There are people that will even come and say that the reason why I am doing this particular program is because I've never experienced any kind of spiritual attack. There will be people who will be telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. So the reason why I am getting deeper and deeper, I want you to understand that when I'm saying that I am found, it's because I know all these powers. I had encounters one after the other of evil spirits. All these things, they did not make sense. All right, my grandfather is a traditionalist, so they said that, okay, witchcraft was involved as well, but then because your grandfather was a sangoma, then even the children they were supposed to take over the baton, of which he's not dead, he's still alive. So every child that came from that lineage, they were supposed to be traditionalist, herbalist, whatever, or a priestess, a priest, however the case may be. It did not make sense. I still grew up in this environment. All these things, they still did not make sense. I looked as I'm growing up, I'm kind of asking myself questions that, all right, if you have to follow all these things and abide by all these rules and be an ancestral worshiper and do everything, why is it that people have to be taken away? Why should people die in that process? It was a question. Remember from episode 2, I explained how I got initiated unknowingly into the water by my grandfather, of which there was no permission whatsoever for him to do that from the biological parents of the child, but he went ahead. So I don't know the kind of things that he promised in the water concerning my life. And I also mentioned again that I've learned to understand that there is a super being, a spirit being, that it was more powerful than all these spirits that I'm being introduced to. Because in all this process, there are certain things now that came to me and they attacked me. As these things, they attacked me, I discovered that my mother now, since she was not educated enough and she refused to be a priestess or whatsoever the case may be, now whatever the challenge that she was facing, I was facing it, and I'm still a young girl. I'm somebody who likes to go after things and search for information and search for a knowledge for a particular thing before I follow it. So I discovered that, okay, if this woman does not make up her mind, then which means I'm going to go through the same thing that she's going through. So which means my life will end up just like hers. And I told myself then, I had no encounter with Jesus Christ by then. I was still living in darkness. I told myself that, you know what, I made up my mind that, you know what, I don't want this thing to repeat itself again. Let me rather go and get initiated. I set my family down and I told them that this is the decision that I have made. Since my mother does not want to go on and do this thing, I'm going to do it, because at the end of the day, it is affecting us. I thought that I was putting a stop to it by doing so. Remember, I said that my grandmother's first child died from her first marriage because they wanted this traditional route never to go away. Everybody must be initiated. So apparently, it will not be easy for you to get married. Apparently, there will be ones that will not get children due to this thing. Apparently, there are those ones who will remain single forever in the very same culture. So, I struggled. I made up my decision. Every relationship that I tried, it did not work out. And I had my own dreams. I wanted to be a somebody in this life. But then all my dreams were getting shattered day by day because I don't see anything that is positive that is taking place in my life. So I had to make up my mind and to take those decisions. When I took that decision, I went there, and I still say that I say that there was a super spirit being that was there for me. When I went through the initiation process and everything, I did everything. Again, I had an encounter. I've been seeing spirits one after the other back in those times. It's not a hearsay story or whatnot. I know what is a juju or tokoloshe. How does it look like? I did not see it once. I did not see it twice. I know a dead person that dies and then it will be declared that this person is dead. But then when I met a person that was declared dead, that was my mother's sister, they told us that she's dead. But then when I woke up in the night, I saw her coming out of the compound but this person is dead. And when I told them that this is what I saw, I was not dreaming. I woke up, I heard the sound of the gate, and I went to look at the window, over the window, and I looked and I saw that this person that they are busy moaning for, crying, this person just stepped out, and I saw her coming out. And when I went back to the old people, the elders, they still told me the same thing, my grandparents, that no, even the first daughter that died, that is what happened. We kept on going from one sangoma to the other because we wanted to call her spirit back till today. And everybody that was buried there, in that family, that is what you will be told, that it's all part of witchcraft. It's all part of this traditional culture and all those things. But all those people, they will be seen, but nobody will bring them back. It was still a problem for me. So when I got initiated, that super spirit being, when I was right in the middle of this initiation school, that's whereby I had an encounter again with a spirit being in a form of my grandfather, not the one from my father's side. Now, he died long time ago. I've never seen him. And then, you know what? God speaks with us in a language that we understand. Because I believe in ancestors, because I was raised in this particular culture, God brought somebody that people will be able to interpret for me that this is what it means. And the old man said to me, take your stuff, pack your things, and get out of that place. Because if you stay a week longer there, they will take your life. Remember, in the second episode, I told you that I was supposed to be sacrificed to the gods, of which it never took place because there was a super spirit being that was there for me, that has been holding my hand. And when I went to my mother, I told her that this is what is happening. In that process, everything was arranged for me in the spirit that I have to move from Eastern Cape to Johannesburg. That is how I came to Johannesburg. In that particular week, the very same people that were supposed to initiate me, the ones that were planning to do evil with whoever in the spirit realm, those people, they just died just like that. I just received news that the person that we were supposed to go and report the reason why you're not coming back is no more. So it was a bonus for me. I came back to Eastern, I came to Joburg to start a new life, and in that process, that is how I had an encounter with my Lord and personal Savior, which is Jesus. So now, what I want you to understand is that when you believe something, you must make sure that you believe something that is right. Darkness, ignorance is a very dangerous thing because we are living in an age of new information. Things that our great grandparents, our forefathers, that they did, there was no information that they had in those days. The only thing that they grab hold of is what their forefathers told them. But this kind of information was never introduced to them. And at the end of the day, after having an encounter with Jesus, I still appreciate the fact that I come from that particular background, and I don't regret it because there are great things that I have learned from it. As I'm saying that, I had the prayerful parents, grandparents. On the other side, I had traditionalists. So all these two, I was raised in these. So I still appreciate them. And I know that as well, the prayers of those that were before me, they are still working as well. So I acknowledge. When I come here to talk about beliefs, when I come here to talk about ancestors, it's not to make them to look low or whatsoever. No. I am very grateful that God decided to plant me in that particular foundation. I appreciate them. Everybody has got their own route. That one I can never run away from. I am proud of who am I. I am proud of where I come from. But I want us to understand that when you believe something, let it be an accurate information. Do research about what you believe. Understand that you are not believing on something that somebody else has told you about. Tell me, what encounters do you have concerning that particular belief that you believe? Don't just believe things because this is part of my family. This is what I've come. It is not good enough. So now when I say to you that I do not want my children to worship me. I had a particular encounter, 2017. Remember I told you that the firstborn of my grandmother died. And I was the firstborn of my mother, of which I did not die. I was supposed to be sacrificed to the gods. I was still living in ignorance, but I did not die. Now, I had my own firstborn. It was my son. Now, something happened when my son passed on. He just got sick for like 3 days. Somebody that has been healthy for 19 good years of his life. All of a sudden, when he just finished writing his matric, and he was just in that moment of excitement, celebrating, in just 5 days' time, he just got a headache. When he got this headache, I thought it was something that was just gonna go away. And he was taken to the hospital. I met him at the hospital. The last time I've spoken with him, it was the first day when he complained about the headache. When they called me at work, he was already taken to the hospital. When he got there, he was a cabbage. He could not talk. He could not recognize me. I was talking by myself. The only thing that we had to do was to pray. Pray, believe in God, believe in God, believe in God for him to be fine. Unfortunately, by the will of God, everything had to take place. And in that process, when he was at the mortuary, I did something. I remembered all these incidents because now I had an encounter with Jesus. I went with my sister. He was supposed to be buried on a Saturday. He passed on a Friday, and then on a Thursday before the Saturday, I believe on a Friday before, we had to go and bath him and dress him up in a suit that we think that he should be buried in. And he had his particular suit that he loved, that he was wearing on his matric dance. So when we got there, as I was busy cleaning up my son, so I have other children that come after him. I said to him, I spoke to him, I said, listen here, boy, God used me as an avenue so that you can be here. You are a gift to me. I had to raise you in a particular way, and now I have children that come after you. One thing I don't want you to do is to come and disturb my children. When I'm going to bury you on Saturday, I know that in my culture you buy a blanket so that you don't get cold. I say that many people that were buried in my family, in my background, they will be given, their casket will be covered, or whatever coffin will be covered in that blanket. But along the process, you will hear that when people get certain visions, that this particular person that died, we saw them outside the gate, and then they will tell you that the person is cold. So there is a traditional or ritual that's supposed to take place. I said, listen here, I did not create you. I don't have life, and I'm not the taker of life. However a person goes, it is between God and that person. What I want you to do, if you have questions about your death, wherever you are going, what I want you to do is to face God and deal with your creator. But I don't want you to mess with my children. I don't want a child that will come and cry and say that I had a nightmare or whatever. And they say, no, we appreciate you. We love you. You will always be in our hearts. But then I don't want you to disturb us as a spirit, because you will never be an ancestor. Why did I say that to him? Because my grandfather, as I was growing up, my grandfather, when he was supposed to do a particular ritual in his house, all of a sudden, I'm already that grown up. Maybe I was between 12 or 15. In that stage, he was told, he has been existing before I was there. He was told that this ritual, you cannot do it. There is a brother of yours that never went to be initiated to become a man. So before we do this particular thing, your family is owing the ancestors this. I'm like, really? This thing does not make sense. Why should you go and do a ritual for somebody that died as a boy? So when I was speaking to my boy, I told him that you were preparing to go for initiation school to be initiated as a man according to culture. You did not pass through that stage. So I don't want you to disturb us in concerning that, because I will never treat you as an ancestor. It's going to be 3 years now. My son passed on. I'm telling you, I've never had bad dreams. I've never had visits. My children were still small. When it's his birthday, we do what we want to, because they always remind me that it's my brother's birthday today. What are we going to do? Then we do whatever it is to remember him as our part of the family. Not that after he was buried, we have forgotten about him. We can't forget about him. It was a long process. There are still stories that I will still share with you concerning our relationship. But then, I've spoken to him. I said that they will never, not in my home, because there are new developments that I have found for myself. What is that development? Revelations 4:11. It is telling me that God is worthy to be praised. God is worthy to be honored. All power, glory, and honor, everything, with everything, He has created everything in this earth for His own pleasure. And the other version says that for His own will. So I have, in my development, in my inquiries, in my journey of self-discovery, I wanted the will of God. I wanted to know what is the will of God. So everything that I want to do, it must align with the will of God. The ancestors, Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, it did not mention that in the beginning God created heavens and the earth. He did not tell me that God created heavens and the earth. And in order for you to connect to that God, you have to worship the ancestors. I did not see that one. Once we are gone here, we are gone here. We will deal with our business after this life with God. We still have our own questions that we will answer on that particular day. But then, if God says that He has created me for His pleasure, when He says that I must go and preach the gospel, when He says that there is eternal life, that is the will of God that I'm running after. When He says that His blessings, there is nothing that He requires from me more than my soul, and He will give me the joy, the peace, and everything without me going to sacrifice one thing or the other. There is nothing that I offer, and I'm having a perfect good life that I enjoy under the hand of God. So in your belief, seek knowledge. Be sure of what you believe, because the quality of your life is directly proportional to the quality of the knowledge that you have. So I am here because of the knowledge that I have, and I am bold enough to tell you what I'm telling, because I understand what kind of knowledge I have about God. But then we're not going to finish everything in one day. as we continue, I just want you to keep on dropping those questions, send your messages, comment in every whatever platform that you have access to. If it's Facebook, if it's you have to send me an inbox to ask me a question, inbox me on Messenger. I will come back and talk to you. If you feel you want to say a comment even on my WhatsApp, you have my contact numbers. If you want to comment even on my YouTube, do that. Let us engage in this. Let us grow together so that we can understand why do we say now we are the children of God. There is no third person. God used my mother and my father as an avenue for me to be here, and I love them and I appreciate them, and I appreciate everything that God has allowed me to pass through so that I can grow and develop myself to be this person. So the truth that I know is the truth that has set me free today. I want you to understand what you believe. Let's search the truth around your beliefs and go and search and research and find out exactly that knowledge that you have, is it truthful enough to take you to where you're going one day? Where are you going after this life? This is Phumza Graced. Until we meet next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. sharp. Drop those comments, ask those questions to me. I am your loving sister. Till we meet again next week, bye and God bless you.